So all of the characters in Project 06 have a ton of different abilities, which I've highlighted through my character bios that you can find previously on the channel, and I figured it would be fun at chat's suggestion to go ahead and do a tier list of them, because why not? Because I use a newsfeed eradicator to remove my For You page on my YouTube, shoutouts to Yoda, I don't know what a tier list video looks like, so I've got the tier list, I got the abilities, let's go through them, here we go. Now, what I do know about a tier list video is that all of these rankings are my opinion, and because of that, it means that mine is fact because I have more hours than you in the game. So continuing on from that, let's go ahead and get started. With our first ability, the Accelerator Tornado. Accelerator Tornado is a pretty great ability. I will be talking about these abilities as they are part of the entire moveset, because kind of the whole point of Sonic games is to use the moves in tandem with each other in order to go fast throughout the stages. And the Accelerator Tornado, not only being a great double jump for Blaze, can also be a triple jump for Blaze. Funnily enough, as I was recording the Blaze bio video, I found that the Accelerator Tornado only does damage when on the backspin of it, so when the actual fire effects appear. If you like try to do a double jump into an enemy, you'll just take a hit. So kind of a cool nuance on that. But overall, great ability. The Badnik Bounce. Goated. The Badnik Bounce is such a cool and awesome addition to Project 06, and in like other 3D Sonic games, Sonic could jump onto enemies and stuff, but the actual bounce he got from jumping on an enemy didn't really mean much, not even like in Sonic Adventure 1, it was just like a little hop. But now with the Badnik Bounce working kind of how it does in the classics, it still has a set height, but you can actually change it. Whether you hold the button or whether you don't hold the button will give you two different heights. So it's pretty cool stuff. And it's just goated. It's good. Like, especially in Silver Story. Oh my gosh, this dude, this dude uses the Badnik Bounce so much more than Sonic or Shadow. Probably because it doesn't have a homing attack, but we'll talk about that later. Next up is the bike. As cool as the bike looks, pretty meh, and I would say probably most of Shadow's vehicles are pretty meh. We would absolutely avoid this bike, and we actually do in the speed run at the beginning of Radical Terrain. We avoid the first one because not only is Shadow naturally faster, but all we really need it for is to destroy the train. And I mean, as cool as it looks, it's not really that good. It only appears in one section of all of his stages, so not really that great. Now, next is one of my favorites. The Blue Gem. Blue Gem, goated. The Blue Gem is a goated ability because unlike something like the Spindash, which we'll be talking about later, the Blue Gem gives you its speed instantaneously. So it's not like you have to charge up or anything like that. And when you level up the gems, you actually like get a little boost and stuff. And doing Blue Gem jumps with Sonic, especially at level 3 when the thing doesn't waste action gauge or whatever, like, or it uses very little of the action gauge. I mean, it's hard for it to not be an amazing ability, and the Spindash still does have its use, which I'll talk about when we get to it, but the Blue Gem, good stuff, love it. Rouge's Bomb Throw. It's good. Rouge's Bomb Throw is good. Kind of works like Shadow's, you know, Chaos Spear, except it blows stuff up, which is really neat. I mean, like, in Rouge's stages in Project 06, or the sections you play with her anyway, she doesn't really have a good opportunity to use this move, because this move, I should say, includes both the ground and the air variant. Even though they use different models, it's the exact same attack. And, I mean, it's kind of neat in the air, because Rouge actually stalls herself for a moment, and she can throw them out pretty quickly, but it's just not really that useful. You can just kind of avoid the enemies in her section anyway, so it's not really a big deal unless you're going for the S rank, but yeah, it's good. The Bound Attack. I'm giving the Bound Attack a great. And the reason I say that is because while it's like really good for defeating enemies, especially if you've played the original Sonic 06, it's pretty good there. The homing attack has an attribute that I'll be talking about when we get to it that kind of nullifies the combat use of the bounce attack in most cases. Or the bound attack, sorry, that's what this game calls it. Using the bound attack for that isn't too terribly amazing. However, the fact that you can use the bound attack in combination with a jump dash to do a second jump dash, now that's cool. And the legacy jump dash, piece de resistance. So honestly, the fact that you can get 2 jump dashes with the bound attack is what makes it truly great. Moving on to our next one, the Buggy. It's just a worse bike, and it has a worse weapon. The bike's got the machine gun, whereas the Buggy has the 2 missile launchers that the glider has. I mean, it's got a lot of health, but it's a Sonic game. You can just collect the rings that drop, plus Shadow has a whole bunch of combat anyway. It's really cool that it's in the game, and, you know, it pays tribute to the fact that it was in the original Sonic 06. It's pretty bad, though. You can clear the times that it appears. I think in Project 06, it's White Acropolis and Wave Ocean are the only two places, and you can clear out those way faster and easier with the rest of Shadow's moveset. So it's kind of hard to really say it's anything other than bad. The Chaos Attack. I'm gonna say the Chaos Attack is meh. And the reason for this is because with how Project 06 is designed and with how Sonic and Blaze work with their homing attacks, the Chaos Attack is straight up a downgrade from the homing attack because it has longer lag frames than just using the homing attack and spamming it against enemies. So though it has really cool animations that Sonic Pox made, I will not deny that. It's a very neat looking move. It's just not as good as if Shadow literally didn't have it. He would be a better combat character if he didn't have the combat move. That's wild. Moving on to the Chaos Blast. I'm putting the Chaos Blast in good. And I'm putting Chaos Blast in good for the only reason that it's Chaos Blast. The actual move itself, it completely stopped Shadow for I think like 5 or 6 seconds, destroying anything in the area, but there's another move we're going to be getting to that kind of nullifies being able to defeat everything instantly, and it also uses a lot of the action gauge if you're using it in level 3 Chaos Boost. It just really doesn't have the utility. Like that's a lot of things. It's like the utility. All of the characters in Project 06 have so many moves that a lot of their usefulnesses kind of bleed into each other, and while it's really, really neat that they're there, it's just sometimes some moves just outshine others, and the level 3 Chaos Boost, that definitely happens with that. The Chaos Lance, I'm gonna put it at the top of meh. And I'm talking specifically about level 2 Chaos Lance because one of the cool things that we'll get to when we talked about the Chaos Spear is that you can fire it at multiple targets. However, when you charge the Chaos Lance, yes, you can instantly destroy an enemy, but you can only throw it at one enemy. You can just throw the yellow variant because normally the regular spear has a blue variant, and then charge it to a yellow variant. The Lance starts with that yellow variant, and that's really nice. It makes things a little bit faster and snappier for lack of a better term, but I mean, just home and attack the guys, right? Next up is Chaos Snap. Chaos Snap is really neat, and I think that it goes to the top of good, and I don't want to say it's great. And the reason I don't want to say that is not necessarily for its combat utility. It does increase the power of the chaos attack. The one where Shadow, the one I put right here, where he is worse than the regular homing attack. However, I believe it's I don't remember if it's every hit. I'll put something on screen, but I don't remember if it's every hit he does 2 damage instead of 1 damage, or if it's only on the last hit of the enemy he does 2 damage. But the Chaos Snap really kind of makes the Chaos Attack viable, and that kind of just says worse about the Chaos Attack. But the coolest thing about the Chaos Snap is being able to extend your homing attack with it, because you hold the A button. If another homing attack target were to come into range, then Shadow will snap automatically to it. It would be great if you could see the target reticle of where Chaos Snap would send you. However, I don't really know how that could be implemented because the game would have to alert you of what's snappable, but you also would have very little time to react to it. It can only do it if you hold the A button. I don't know. It'd be really weird. It's a cool little addition that you can extend Shadow's jump dashes further, but it's like to make it truly great to give the player the information on where the Chaos Snap will snap them to with that extended jump dash. I don't know. I think it'd be a little clunky to implement that. So the Chaos Spear. I think the Chaos Spear is a pretty meh ability overall. However, I'm putting the base form of it above Chaos Lance. The reason I'm doing that is 1, you don't have to level up Chaos Boost to level 2 in order to use the Chaos Spear. Shadow has it by default. And 2, both the stun variation and the charge variation can target up to 5 different enemies at once, which is really nice and really useful. And additionally, because of these Chaos Spear bounces, because the blue Chaos Spear doesn't do any damage, you can use it to kind of stall Shadow in the air and get close enough to a homing attack target to homing attack it and continue, moving around in the air if you're over a bottomless pit or something. And if you have Chaos Lance, you can't do that because the Chaos Spear will always do damage. So if you're doing it against like a one-hit enemy, kind of out of luck. And yeah, it could lead to some not very good stuff, especially if you're doing some cheeky things like Gliderless and Wave Ocean. So it's still pretty meh. You know what? It's good. I think I kind of forgot about the whole Chaos Spear Bounce thing, to be honest. I think that the Spear Bounces kind of saved this. So shout outs to beta tester Gordon Ramsay for convincing Chaos to put it in the game because it moved it up a grade for me. Watching this segment back, I realized that I have made a grave error in that I didn't talk about the fact that you can Chaos Spear and Jump Dash and use those two moves in tandem with each other, doing Shadow's homing attack, being able to use multiple spears to separate out your Jump Dashes and go really far. And because of that, if I were to look at it again, I would put the Chaos Spear above the Bound attack in the Great tier. I don't realize this for the entire tier list, so I wanted to put this in post to show that yes, I was thinking about it, and I definitely put this ability too low initially. Next up is the Climb ability, the ability for Rouge and Knuckles to, of course, climb on walls that they grasp onto. I think that this is a pretty good ability. Oh, what happened here? Where was Chaos Snap? Wait, where'd Climb go? Oh, what is going on? Where was Chaos? Was it down here? Was it down here? Was it up here? I don't know. Do I think the spear's better? I think it was right here. I'm gonna leave it there. So, no, it had to be right here because this had 4. Okay, we're good. We're good. Oh, this is so ridiculous. So I want to say that the Climb is a good ability because not only is it a way for Rouge and Knuckles to, well, traverse the stages really easily, at least in their sections, it's also really cool in Project 06 that you can climb incredibly quickly by constantly jumping and detaching and re-grabbing the wall. I always think that in other Sonic games that it's nice that the climb is pretty slow so that it's precision and you can like find the emerald shards or whatever like in SA1 and SA2. But the problem with it is that Knuckles in Sonic Advance 3 had a really cool ability to be able to spin dash up walls if he was partnered with Amy. And the climb, kind of the jumpy climb sort of thing, kind of feels like that. And I hope that maybe we'll see another Sonic fan game where Knuckles can spin dash up walls because it becomes super useful and kind of feeds more into that Sonic characters are fast loop by being able to, you know, climb up quickly. That's what makes it kind of the top of the good tier for me here is that you can fast climb. The Crakermine Throw. It's meh. It's not quite bad because you can, you charge 5 of those bombs and then throw them. But sometimes the enemy's invincibility frames are a little bit too long and the 5 mines won't actually do 5 damage. It might do closer to 3 damage, which is like, But also, I mean, Rouge has the martial arts, so it's kind of hard to justify this where you have to wait around and let her charge up the ability when you could instead just like throw a bomb to do a quick piece of chip damage or even 2 bombs and then just immediately kick the enemy to death. Like, it's meh. That's why the tier is called meh. Okay, the Crimson Uppercut. This is Knuckles' air finisher. It's got such a cool animation, but I think it really kind of fits in that meh territory. Better than the Crakermine Throw for sure. But I mean, Knuckles' glide can do damage just fine against aerial targets, that this isn't really necessary. Like, it's really cool, and I'm super awesome that Knuckles has I'm super glad that Knuckles has different finishers in the game, but it just, it's like not that useful in terms of like clearing enemy hordes and stuff, and it's not like in Knuckles' sections in the game, he has to do that anyway. In the test stage, though, he might, and it could be a little bit useful there, but I think it being in the meh is really kind of where it lies. The Crow attack, or what's going to be called the Claw attack, and I think it's going to get a rework. I don't want to say it's straight up bad. Like, it doesn't take away from Blaze's moveset because you just simply don't have to use it. I think it's going to go at the bottom of meh though, because while it can extend the speed from dash panels, in the sections you play with Blaze, it's not that useful, other than maybe her Wave Ocean right after you get off of the grind rail and stuff. You can get a little bit of extra speed, but like White Acropolis, the terrain is too bumpy, and it does a good amount of damage, but not really enough damage to kind of outrank her other combat abilities, so Throw, yeah. Throw attack's pretty meh, even though it looks really cool. And it's cool that a beta element got put into with the characters in Project 06. The curved jump dash. Okay, this is an interesting one. I think that the curved jump dash is good. And it's because it got a rework in the Silver Patch 1.4, which is the version of Project 06 you should be playing, since it's the most recent one, it's the most polished and most fun. But with the rework that it's gotten, it's kind of just like a worse legacy jump dash, and I definitely think that it's viable to run with Sonic. Maybe not really with Shadow, but I mean, if you want a little bit of a different flavor and you're not feeling straight from the original game, you're not feeling legacy, you can use curved, I guess. It gets kind of wishy-washy because sometimes these abilities are just so different that like what's better than worse in a tier, so kind of take what I'm putting where with a grain of salt. This is just how I feel in terms of their usefulness, but I'm gonna stick curved right there. I think that's a good spot for it, just kind of right smack dab in the middle. The dash punch. I think that the dash punch is better than the Crimson Uppercut, but it's also, in a lot of cases, when you are playing with Knuckles, in his sections, he just doesn't really need this type of ability. You can avoid the enemies, or you have easier other options that you can use that we'll be getting to later. And again, it's super cool that Knuckles does have those combat finisher, like the different combat finishers. And the glide doesn't exactly kind of replace the niche that, like how it does for the Crimson Uppercut, that you would really need it for. I like it's cool. Like it's cool. I should rename this meh but cool. Here we go. I didn't even know I could do this. Meh but cool. My official Project 06 speedrunner opinion right there. All these moves are meh, but they're cool. Amy's double jump. Amy's double jump is a pretty good ability. I mean, it's a double jump. That's all. That's all I have. It's a double jump. The dummy ring blitz. I love this ability. This ability is definitely great. Just being able to wipe out, send Tails in like the B-17 he is, and just absolutely obliterate all of the ground forces, which can help because when you collect energy cores, you can use that to extend his flight in the action gauge. I don't know, it's just really fun. It's really fun to just bombard enemies with endless heaps of dummy ring bombs. I have a lot of fun with this ability, and I think it's great. Stelmo's seal of approval right there. The dummy ring bomb. Well, it's sort of similar to the dummy ring blitz. Meh, but cool. I don't think it's better than the Chaos Lance, certainly better than the bike, because you could probably find more use out of it there. It's just, you have the dummy ring blitz. You're probably going to be flying with Tails, that's sort of his thing, so he doesn't really need a grounded bomb ability. You can just use the dummy ring blitz instead. You just have to activate the flight, and then you can just throw a bunch of bombs, and I think the dummy ring bomb has a cooldown. I don't think it's very long, but you might as well just switch to the blitz or use one of Tails' other moves, and the dummy ring snipe kind of falls into the same category, but I will say it's better than the dummy ring bomb because Tails can chuck. When you use the snipe, the dude can send them like halfway across the stage. It's absolutely ridiculous, totally unnecessary, but really hilarious. And I love it so much. The fire shield. I think that the fire shield is good because it's required for progression. Well, actually, I don't think in Project 06 you need to use it in any spot at all if you know your way around the routes, but it does have that ability to, one, protect Sonic and Elise and destroy enemies really quickly while you're using it. It also doesn't drain the action gauge too much. So overall, it's like a fairly decent shield, and it's nice because you're Sonic and the Princess and you don't really have access to any other things that can protect you like the fire shield can. So it's pretty nice. It's a good ability, but it's probably bumped up a little bit because Sonic is just, he's handicapped. You know, he would have absolutely no use for this if he wasn't carrying Princess Elise, but still all right. The Fire Claw. It's a homing attack. Homing attacks are goated. I mean, it destroys everything. It also has that ability, of course, to tie in with the Accelerator Tornado to make that double jump. And just because the Accelerator Tornado is a little slow and it doesn't carry your momentum from the Fire Claw, also the Fire Claw basically being the fastest way to move with Blaze, it moves at the same speed as your ground speed, at least in Silver Patch 1.4, but because you can ignore terrain since you're in the air, it's really nice, and you can do it literally instantly. So you get all of that speed instantaneous. And you can also, if you're using it as a jump dash, you can manipulate it in the air, you can slow it down, you can do whatever, you can keep it moving. It's it's really not the best ability in the game, I don't think. But I mean, combined with the fact that it's a homing attack, like it's hard for it to not be super good because it works, you know, you can spam it against enemies and stuff. And it kind of invalidates, you know, some of her other movesets and whatever, but it's still really, really good. The Flame of Control, which grants Silver the Psychic Knife, as well as it makes his Hold Smash, I think, do more damage. I don't know. I'd have to check out my Sonic Project 06 Silver bio where I talk about everything that this guy can do. The Psychic Knife is... Do I think it's great? I think it's at the very bottom. It's teetering between good and great. And it's a really good long-range option against enemies, which I think comes up a few times in Silver's story, and the fact that it has a really wide range to be able to snipe switches from pretty far away, and the fact that it can go through walls is really cool and allows us to do some cool speedrun stuff. And I mean, it's just like a cool looking ability. So, you know, that helps too. Yeah, I think bottom of great is a really good spot for it. Hails' Flight. Hails' Flight, top of great. 100%. I mean, it's flying. You get to fly. You can extend the fly by feathering the A button in order to go further and farther. And then you can combine it with Tails' dummy Ring Blitz to get more energy cores, which extend his flight since it's tied to the action gauge, which is a really cool mechanic that I don't think is in like any other Sonic game. I know Heroes had like the flight extending item balloons, but I think that this is such a cool way, and a cooler way and a more interesting way to integrate Tails' moveset together and not just be like, okay, you're flying now. Okay, you're defeating enemies now, and that kind of stuff. Like, it makes having it tied to the action gauge just really helps kind of bring more cohesiveness into his moveset, which I really like. Gatling Guns. I want to say it's goated off of premise alone, but I think it fits right here in terms of greatness. Better than the Bound Attack, worse than the Accelerator Tornado in terms of movement, and while it is a little bit of a different thing, Omega's got so many combat options, and this dude, I just gotta say, I'm gonna show this real quick. Download Beats' Character Switcher mod, go into a Silver or Shadow stage, and just play as Omega. The dude, it is so fun to mob with him with all his different abilities and just completely obliterate everything. Gatling Guns mode is great, and it's awesome to kind of have your own little turret mode that you can enter. And I mean, his arms turn into guns. That's kind of neat too. This is really good for taking care of more difficult enemies if they're maybe a little bit more spread out, because his only really other good option for spread out enemies is the lock-on shot, which only does 1 point of damage, but it doesn't come up too often, and the ammo count isn't really an issue since you're going to be defeating enemies with it anyway. However, you can hit switches and stuff with this too, which is pretty useful in his section in Dusty Desert, so good stuff. Gliding, another great ability, and I think it's better than flying for the sole purpose that, one, you can climb to extend your height, but two, it's infinite. You can just keep gliding as long as you want with Knuckles. You can Knuckles and Rouge, I should say. You can cancel it out. You can run into a wall and glide again. Like, the thing is that 06 does a good job of just like making it to where the gliding isn't too overly overpowered. Rouge's Tropical Jungle, it is kind of overpowered just with how that section is laid out, but that's also sort of more of a bonus level than like an actual full length level you'd go throughout the game. But the gliding it's really good. It's really good. Great even. It's like what the tier list says or something. Been good since Sonic 3 and Knuckles. The Hang Glider. Hang Glider's bad. Wow, it's better than the Buggy though. Better than the Buggy. The Hang Glider, I kind of just wish we got to do the sections we have with the Hang Glider without the Hang Glider, because it'd probably be more fun. Its weapon, the missile weapon, just really isn't that good, and another reason why like the Buggy is bad. It being free range and having the boost and stuff is kind of neat, but I would rather just play as Shadow rather than be Shadow in this Hang Glider. And part of what makes it so cool is the fact that you can do Wave Ocean section gliderless. You don't have to use the glider in one of the sections, and like I would much rather play through Kingdom Valley Section 1, which I know is in End of the World, but that's not in the game yet, so that doesn't count. And then of course Crisis City Section 3, I would much rather just play as a character moving, so glider's definitely bad. The green gem, I think the green gem is... So it goes somewhere in here. I think below the Chaos Spear, just because the Chaos Spear has that range that it can, that has the ability to fire it at a pretty long distance, which is nice, and attack enemies from far away. The green gem is extremely devastating. In Sonic's story, though, at least until you get to Aquatic Base, there aren't really any good enemy formations to use it in, because Sonic was supposed to be, I guess, like the middle of the road combat. Like, the green gem does make Sonic completely stationary. If you want it to do damage anyway, you can cancel it it out while you're in the air or on the ground, but it stops doing damage. So that doesn't really help it too much, and you might do less damage than you want it to do in that case. I like the green shoes. They look great. And also how all of the gem abilities in Project 06 give Sonic a outline corresponding the color of the gem. I think it's pretty neat too. Love my glowing outlines, but kind of good, I guess, where it's set. The Ground Shaker. Ground Shaker is, I think, just another good ability. I think it's better than the bomb throw. Maybe not better than the double jump. I mean, just having a way to quickly descend with Knuckles and Rouge. But we'll talk about, you know what? I see the kick dive here. I'll go ahead and put the kick dive here too, because they're the exact same move. I don't know why I separated them, but okay, so there's 72 abilities we need to cover today. I mean, it's good. It emits that shockwave, which I think was a really cool addition given Project 06's higher focus on combat than something like Sonic Adventure 2, where it was really only needed for exploration. I think that's really neat. And just a way to quickly start your way down. What I was gonna talk about earlier is that it's actually faster to regularly fall with Knuckles and Rouge, but you can use the Ground Shaker and kick dive in order to kind of jumpstart that fall, which is really nice. You can also use it just straight up out of a jump to get that quick stun. So I'd say it's pretty good and definitely helpful, at least in Rouge's case. If maybe one of the keys has enemies around it and stuff, just to be able to stun them and not worry about them is pretty nice. The hammer attack. Amy's hammer attack is pretty darn great. I'd say it's probably teetering between good and great, kind of like the Flame of Control is. And that's because unless you're moving with it, it only does 1 point of damage, and it has a decent cooldown, at least in retrospect to all of the different abilities that we have here in Project 06. It has a pretty long cooldown. But when it's moving, like when you're moving with Amy and use the hammer attack, it does multiple points of damage, like during the swing. And it's honestly really powerful, especially against some of the tougher enemies in her section in Dusty Desert. I look forward to seeing End of the World Amy's section and just seeing how useful it'll be there. But for now, I mean, it's got a good spot sitting right at the bottom of the great tier. The hammer jump. So Amy's hammer jump, pretty darn fantastic move. Really useful for, you know, going fast in her sections. And it looks like it was kind of worked out to be where it's really good for crossing those gaps in her section. And the fact that it does multiple points of damage when you're using it is really neat. But yeah, I mean, it's a great ability. It makes you go faster. And I certainly like Sonic games where my characters in the game go fast. The Hold Smash. The Hold Smash, I actually, after Silver's bio, I gained quite the appreciation for this move. I probably before, if I had done this without doing the character bios, would have said that this ability is kind of meh, but it's actually pretty good. Being able to immediately, oh gosh, let's just zoom out here a little bit. All right, well, now we're zoomed out to here. There's so many abilities in this game. What were we talking about? Where was it? The Hold Smash. So the Hold Smash, I think I want to put probably below Curve since, you know, movement's king. But in terms of combat, the Hold Smash is really nice just to be able to get rid of what Silver's using. And then when you get the Flame of Control and the Hold Smash can defeat anything is also really nice. Because, I mean, you can take down like one of the Iblis golems, or the purple golems or the purple worms you can take down with a wooden box if you use the Hold Smash. I was surprised at how much use when I was doing Silver's character bio I got out of this move. Very impressive on that, or very much impressed by it. The homing attack, it's the homing attack. It's really good. Basically everything I said about the Fire Claw applies here. However, it doesn't include the jump dash portion, obviously, because the homing attack is separate from the jump dash in Sonic and Shadow's case. So we'll talk about that when we get to more of the jump dash types. The hovercraft is probably the best of the vehicles. See, but I don't really think the hovercraft is that cool. The only reason the bike is here is because it's a cool. Shadow on a bike is really neat. I'm a fan of it. I don't think I'm holding fast on the bike being here. The hover car, but the hover car isn't bad. Yeah, I think that this should be a meh. It's definitely more useful than the chaos attack. I'll say that. It's got the machine gun, so that automatically makes it better than the glider, than the buggy. And it's got the hover jump. It's got a pretty decent speed. And you can actually use it to run over Shadow at the end of his Wave Ocean, which is pretty neat too. It's an interesting take on sort of platforming. I mean, it's kind of like just playing as Shadow, except you can go on water and quicksand. So that's kind of neat. Yeah, I don't really have much to say on it, but also cool little factoid is that all of the vehicles in Project 06 have a little Project Shadow insignia on them. Chaos added that. You can find out more cool facts like that in my 100 Facts About Sonic Project 06 video. Hey, look at that, shameless plug. The jump attack. The jump attack is actually super interesting, and one, it does more damage than the spin attack, or just doing a spin jump with Amy, and the fact that it gives her a small boost, and that you can use that boost on things that are not objects, like I showed in the Amy bio video, but can talk about more here, is you can use it, I think, on boxes, and you can also use it against, whoops, sorry, hit the mic. You can use it on spike balls. That's what I'm thinking of. And that's actually a backup that you can do in the speed run in order to get up to the switch in her Dusty Desert. So I mean, it's not as good because it's not as versatile as the double jump, because you have to have something to jump attack off of in order to do that. So I'm going to say it's probably more useful than the green gem because it can be used on the move. Yeah, I like that spot. Totally just kind of take with a grain of salt where these actually are in the tiers. Okay, the kick dash. I think the kick dash is not only just a good ability, but I also think that the kick dash was a necessary ability to make the snowboard sections a lot easier, especially White Acropolis' section, because it's so easy with how narrow the slopes are in that stage to just get stopped and get really annoyed because you have to wait for Sonic to rebuild speed back up. So this addition was really awesome to make these snowboard sections pretty fun and keep that top speed going. So big fan of that. Just Rouge's kick combo. Rouge's kick combo is pretty good. I have to say it works pretty much exactly how it does in SA2. It's got that multi-hit, or she kicks multiple times, so you can hit multiple times. It puts her in a great position to then do a kick dive, which is really nice, since she gets her final kicking is an uppercut, so that's really nice. In fact, I'll probably put it right here, maybe, next to the kick dive, because these kind of make Rouge's combo here, since she doesn't have multiple kick combos like Knuckles. So, really good stuff. Oh, my baby, the Legacy Jump Dash. That, my friends, is a goated ability. The Legacy Jump Dash for Sonic and Shadow, I mean, it completely changed. Now, I don't think I have any footage of it, but I did stream Project 06 one time when it was in Demo 2.5, and I also, of course, played it in Demo 3 and Demo 3.5 when all of only Sonic stages were available. But the addition of Legacy, just smoothing out the movement and the flow of Sonic and Shadow's gameplay, like, it's honestly what makes Project 06 speedrunning for me. Just the both their categories anyway. The fluidness that comes from Legacy Jump Dash, and then of course in combination with Sonic's bound attack, you can do that sort of pseudo drop dash type stuff. And I mean, just the ability to do 2 jump dashes in the air, I mean, it's really good, and it keeps the flow of the movement going all the time. So definitely deserves that goated S tier spot for sure. Silver's Levitate is a really good ability, or a great ability, I should say. And I think it's not only, you know, because you can levitate, keep the same altitude, and fly across gaps and stuff. I think the most useful thing Levitate can do is help with precision platforming and positioning, because the Levitate can slow Silver down instantly if you let go of the control stick, which is really nice. And it can kind of help because then you can see the drop shadow below you, and you have a split second, as long as you have action gauge, in order to figure out where you want to land with Silver. Levitate's a really great ability. A lot of the L abilities are pretty darn good. Light Dash. Light Dash is another great ability, and I mean, it's the Light Dash. It makes you invincible. It's really good in Sonic's mock speed sections for helping him out, and he's got 4 of those throughout his stages. It can kind of help Shadow out sometimes. I think in the speed run we use it maybe like, I don't know, like 4 times in Shadow's story. He just really doesn't have that Light Dash capability. The only thing that I think stops the Light Dash, in fact, I think I want to move this down to the bottom of great, because with how Project 06 is made, in order, it's kind of like Sonic Generations, where the Trail of Rings has to be specifically coded to be light dashable, which means there are certain situations in both Sonic and Shadow's story where you can't light dash a Trail of Rings, and there's no indication of it. Not that there needs to be or anything. I would say that most of the trails that aren't light dashable aren't really that useful, but it's also just kind of like, I wish I could light dash on all of them, because I am a gamer and I can never have enough. But I mean, it's still a great ability, and definitely helps Sonic out before you get that Rainbow Gem and mock speed sections too, helping keep him nice and safe. Okay, next up, the lock-on shot. The lock-on shot is a great ability, better than the Gatling Guns for sure. It's basically like the lock-on from Sonic Adventure 2 with Dr. Eggman and Tails' mechs and stuff. It's really fun. It's a really fun ability. The Lotus of Resilience is a goated ability and goated item that completely transforms Silver's gameplay play in his story. You can go to the speedrun.com leaderboards right now and watch a silver any percent versus a silver upgrade list. The amount of flexibility, get it? Because it makes silver more flexible, that the Lotus of Resilience provides with the addition of that spin jump and increasing silver's teleport dash range. I mean, it's just so good. It's so good. It makes silver incredibly fun and makes him a really interesting take on the Sonic Adventure formula, because he kind of, with the Lotus of Resilience, has that core moveset of a 3D Sonic character, but also has so many like small differences in his abilities that make him traverse the stages differently, and the Lotus just really helps out with that. So big, awesome, ultra crazy cool move. For sure. The Omega Launcher. The Omega Launcher, it's good. It definitely gets hampered by the fact that Omega 1 uses up action gauge because he's hovering in order to use it, and the fact that he isn't really that mobile with it either doesn't help. Now, granted, it has a pretty long range, so you don't have to worry too much about being near an enemy. It's sort of like a powered up yellow chaos spear, now that I really think about it. You can't hit multiple targets at once, but where it is useful, and I think it's good because of that. Okay, so the Omega shot, different from the lock-on shot. This is the name of Omega's combat, or his 3-hit combo from Sonic Heroes in Project 06. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Probably teetering on great. Like, it just absolutely, you know, actually, now that I think about it, I'm remembering back to the Omega bio video. I think maybe for the Omega shot to be super useful, probably the gyratory finisher needs to have a little bit more range. It honestly seems like it's pretty short in range, even though, I mean, he is kind of like just doing a small blast in front of him, so I get it's short range, but it's kind of like you're gonna, with how the enemies are spaced out in his sections, you're gonna get in between a bunch of big guys, and then it's just not gonna hit anything. I mean, it's pretty good otherwise. I think that I'll actually move it a bit down here, probably near to where the hold smash is in terms of usefulness. Where is this thing? Quit moving. I'm a boomer. We'll put it right there. It's definitely better than the hold smash. Okay, the psychic shot is not as good as the psychic knife. It's kind of decent though. It can home in on enemies. Is it really better than like good abilities though? I don't know. I don't think so. I think that this is another one that's gonna fit right here because it just like it is good. It can hit switches. It's got a really long range, and it's especially useful in Silver's Kingdom Valley because it can destroy towers from a really long range away, and then you can levitate to them, which is really cool. You don't have to rely on objects and stuff. And it's got a neat effect as well. Again, it's that thing with Project 06 that it's so cool that all these abilities are here, but for every ability I talk about, there's another one that the characters have that are better for the situation. So it's really hard to boil it down into like what's super duper crazy useful. But I think that this is a good spot for the Psychic Shot. The Psycho Shock is great. It's great and not goated because it doesn't actually defeat anything. However, it's great because it makes things really easy to defeat because it can stun everything. It goes through shields, barriers, that kind of stuff as well. It also has a fast fall component to it. Silver's fall speed, I think it kind of depends, but it has a faster acceleration. I don't think that the fall speed is as fast as just regularly falling with the guy, but it can help like in his radical train. If you do the speedrun route where you spin jump off the enemy and go over the train tracks, you can get to the rail a little bit faster with the Psycho Shock, at least in terms of platforming. And then of course it pretty much nullifies any enemy formation in the entire game. So definitely a great ability. Is it better than the flying glide? Kind of hard to compare platforming abilities with combat abilities. Whatever. The Psycho Smash is it's at the bottom of good, and the reason that it's at the bottom of good is a technicality, because the Psycho Smash is technically the ability you use to throw objects with Silver as well. Its base ability to just stun stuff is whatever. You're probably never going to use it. It's also got a neat little thing too where it can bounce projectiles back if you slap it at the right time. That's kind of neat, but you could also just grab the projectile with Silver, so you don't really need that, but it's good. I mean, is it better than the Chaos Lance though? Probably. And I also didn't mention another thing against the Chaos Lance is it uses up extra action gauge as well. So that's definitely, when you use the charge variant, I should say. So that definitely doesn't help the case there. Silver's Psychokinesis is, of course, goated. It has to be. It's the main thing his entire moveset is centered around. Being able to pick stuff up, manipulate it, and do all sorts of different things with it. Being able to pick up and crush enemies in one hit regardless of health is incredibly useful. It's goated. It's Silver's bread and butter. It has to be. Psychokinesis All, on the other hand, is pretty neat. I think I'm gonna go with meh, but cool. We actually use this quite a bit in the speed run. If you notice, most of the enemy formations we use the Psycho Shock with, you can actually double tap real fast to grab them all around Silver, while his base Psychokinesis only grabs them in like a cone shape. You know, that's kind of a technicality because you can also stun and then just spin Silver around and pick them up kind of just as quickly. The only reason we use it in the speedrun is just because it's a little bit faster. And Silver also can't move while he's using the Psychokinesis All, at least without ESP mode, but I'll talk more about that when we get to ESP mode. Once again, zooming out, there are just so many abilities in this game, man, but we're almost there. Next up is the purple gem. Yeah, it's gotta be. It's not better than the Lotus, but definitely better than Psychokinesis, which is kind of crazy to say because it has one specific niche, but it does that niche so dang well. I mean, what's better than a double jump than not only a triple jump, but a quadruple jump with Sonic? Plus, the little cherry on top is that at level 3, Sonic can go invisible as well. I mean, it's just really useful. And one thing that I don't highlight as much in the character bio is that you only have to hold the purple gem button down, or maybe I do. I don't know. It's been a long time since I made that video. You only have to hold the purple gem button down, or the custom action button down, when you are performing the jump. So you can get those extra jumps for literally like a sliver of the action gauge, which is really neat. And it also allows you to maintain your speed a lot better because when you hold the button down, I think you get locked into like a certain bit of speed. I'm not entirely sure on that. I'd have to do some testing on it, but I'm sure I'll have a splash or something up there to talk about that. Let's see, Knuckles' punch combo, kind of the same thing as Rouge's kick. It's pretty good. I guess, you know, it does have the 3 different finishers, but only one of those finishers that we haven't seen yet is the only one that's super duper useful. But I mean, it's neat. He punches. He's the punchy guy, so it makes sense. The rainbow gem. All right, I was excited for this one. I think that Supersonic in Project 06 is at the bottom of great. The reason for this is that the gems are just so much better than Supersonic, and you cannot use Supersonic and the gems at the same time. I think that this is really cool, though. I think it's cool that Supersonic has that opportunity cost to him, and it's not just like the speed run of Project 06 Sonic story is to just go super as early as possible every single time. I do think that's really awesome. However, the other gems are just so much better at going through the stages, especially with how easy and quick it is to switch between them, especially with the blue and purple gem, that it's really hard to justify using Supersonic over them. And honestly, even in Mach speed sections, while yes, it is fast to use Supersonic, he's only about, I think, 15% faster. I think Chaos told me that regular Sonic and Mach speed at max speed goes at 85 meters a second, and Supersonic goes at 100. It might be 110. I think I'll have to ask him, but it's not really that big of a difference. Now, obviously, speedrunner, it's faster to be Supersonic, so we're going to be Supersonic and it saves the time. But you can also do all of the tricks that you can do, well, except for one in Kingdom Valley. I don't think you could do that with regular Sonic. You might be able to, but I'm not good enough of a player to do it. Even though it's like kind of weird, I really like where he is here. Red gem? Knuckles' Screwdriver, the forgotten ability of this guy. The Screwdriver is, I mean, it's basically a slower version of Blaze's Fire Claw, except it doesn't have the cool jump dash ability. Knuckles kind of has a homing attack though, which I guess he also has in Shadow the Hedgehog, but I mean, it's fine. I probably would put it in meh. I think it's better than the Dash Punch and Crimson Uppercut though, because you can charge it and it'll completely destroy enemies. And I do know in the next version of Project 06 that the Screwdriver will be kind of mobile, like how the maximum heat Knuckles attack is. I don't know if it's gonna ever get more above a meh for me though. Unless Knuckles actually has to fight enemies in the next release, we might find some use for it. The Sigil of Awakening, granting ESP mode. You already know that this is goated, not only just because of what it does to Silver, but also just the idea in general that this is a character with an opportunity cost on top of the already existent resource management from the action gauge, on top of his already different style of Sonic Adventure gameplay, which is so cool and just so layered. We have to be careful when we activate ESP mode because we can't extend its duration while it's active. And it does so much cool stuff, allows for a lot of really cool skips that we couldn't do otherwise, especially when combined with the Lotus of Resilience. I love that it's like ESP mode can do everything except make Silver invincible. He can reflect projectiles. He can defeat enemies in one hit. He can just zoom across the skies for a super long period of time. But if he gets touched, he's taking damage. Everything about ESP mode, it's probably my favorite of the 3 ultimate abilities. And now that I think about that, I just realized that Uninhibited mode is not in this list, and I need to go add that. So give me a second. Okay, we're back. Well, that was a little bit for you. That took a little bit a little bit long for me. But anyway, point is, Uninhibited mode is now there. Glad I caught that before I finished it. I would have felt like such an idiot if I had missed it. So there are now 74 abilities to go over in Project 06. Probably won't be the last time that number changes. Okay, next up, we got the Sky Gem. The Sky Gem is interesting because I think that it's great. I think it's at the bottom of the great, not as good as or between good and great, kind of like a lot of these abilities are, but I think it goes into great just because it's that quick, snappy boost upward in most situations you want to use it, and I think it's great just because it's fun. That's my only reasoning, is that it's really fun to use, and it can also save your behind if you really mess up with it. And you also have the ability to use it out of purple gem. You could use it before your 2 jump dashes. Well, you can actually get 3 jump dashes out of it because you can jump dash, then you can sky gem, and then you can jump dash, which is actually something I learned really recently. Sky gem, it's really fun. You get to throw it, launch to it, or launched upward, sometimes a ridiculous degree, but it's still really awesome. The slide attack is good. I think it's right in line with the fire shield because it's only useful in the princess stages. And that's pretty much it. It's good. The Spindash is at the top of great. The reason it's not goated is because the blue gem is just so much better for Sonic, and that's one of the 2 characters that can use the Spindash. And we use the blue gem 99% of the time when we want to go fast with Sonic, only using the Spindash when we have to absolutely have to. The Spindash is in the great tier because it is the fastest way to move on the ground with Shadow. And if the blue gem didn't exist, maybe it'd be goated, but the blue gem is just so much better than the Spindash. You don't have the action gauge, but it's really not that difficult to maintain action gauge in Project 06, especially when you know what you're doing. So yeah, it's great. The spin kick. Spin kick is interesting. Into that, I actually think it's at the bottom of great. And the only reason it's there is because it maintains your speed, kind of like the crow attack. Now, why is the crow attack in Meba cool, but the spin kick up in great? Because Sonic has the blue gem. And that is the reason, because you can maintain your blue gem speed with 2 spin kicks, which allows you to refill your action gauge and use the blue gem again, so you can literally blue gem spin kick indefinitely and maintain your speed the entire time. Spin kick's great. The spinning claw. I think the spinning claw is at, I think, the top of Meba cool because it's a really cool ability. The fire claw like completely decimates it though in terms of usefulness. It does have some slight use in that while the fire claw, you do have the homing attack, so you will be launched outside of the way that you want to go sometimes, and you also have that little tiny bit of delay where Blaze isn't doing anything. Now, since she has the fire claw, she can immediately go back to top speed if that's the final enemy, so it's not really that big a deal. But if you're already running at top speed and just need to barrel through some enemies in front of you, it does have that little bit of use there, which you can see at like the beginning of Blaze Wave Ocean speedruns. We use it to get through the first enemy formation. The spinning hammer attack is... it's probably better than these abilities. Not as good as the spinning claw. Doesn't last as long. Amy gets dizzy, unlike Blaze, leading to further credence that Amy is just a worse Blaze in Project 06, despite how fun she is to play. Blaze is just the better version. She's got the triple jump. She doesn't get dizzy after her spinning claw. Her spinning claw lasts longer. She also has a homing attack in combination with her lunging attack. While Amy is super duper crazy ultra fun in Project 06, Blaze is crazier, super dupier, ultra-er fun to play as than Amy. Obviously, the animations for that Sonic Box made for Amy, really awesome. I'm sorry, my nose is really itchy. The Stonebreaker is the best of Knuckles' combat abilities, and I gotta put it in the good section because of that. It's probably as good as the Ground Shaker, honestly, and I don't know how the Kick Dive got scooted away from there. The Stonebreaker, it does a lot of damage to enemies in an area of effect, which the Crimson Uppercut and Dash Punch can't really, like, fill those niches. Like I said, gliding kind of takes care of those two abilities. The Stonebreaker, it's an area of effect, deals a lot of damage. Doing a Ground Shaker into a Stonebreaker, it just decimates everything. So, yeah, really good ability. The straight jump back. The straight jump dash is a really good jump dash for beginners, and because of that, I think that it's pretty good. Where's curved? It's better than curved. The straight jump dash is kind of like Sonic Unleashed, Sonic Generations, those jump dashes where you just send straight forward. And you do have the ability to do the double jump dash, which I think is pretty useful. And you can maintain your altitude with the double jump dash, unlike curved. And it is kind of useful for Sonic because of how the bounce attack works. The second jump dash from Legacy or curved will always send you down. Whereas with straight, it cancels your downward momentum and just sends you straight. So you can get more distance with Sonic horizontally, which is nice than the Legacy or curve dash would, but it's just kind of slow, and Legacy's kind of fast, so that's where it's gonna sit for me. The tail swipe is a really awesome ability that I don't think is meh, but I do think is pretty darn good. Is it better than Chaos Snap? It's definitely better than the Omega Launcher. Yeah, I think I'm gonna put it in terms of usefulness, like next to the Kick Dash. It's got that rhythm badge property. If you hold down the button, you can constantly tail swipe, and it's the only time I think in like almost any Sonic game where Tails has a flight cancel of sorts, but can also reinitiate his flight in the air if you do the tail swipe in the air. And again, that flight being tied over to the action gauge, and bada bing, bada boom, you're able to extend your flight really far. And we use that in Tails' section of Aquatic Base as well to great effect. So tail swipe, pretty darn good ability. The teleport dash is great. I mean, pretty self-explanatory. I already talked about it a lot when we talked about the Lotus of Resilience. Teleport dash, fantastic move. With the Lotus of Resilience, it becomes really fun. It's basically pointless without the Lotus. And since I do have the Lotus, should I maybe judge this as it is in his base form? Probably. So it's a meh but cool ability without the Lotus of Resilience in specific, because I kind of already covered everything with how the teleport dash works once you have that upgrade. So the base form of it, not that great. The Tornado Kick is the best ability in the game, bar none. It is ridiculous how good this move is, and that base Shadow has it. It utterly obliterates any enemy formation from any distance because you can go into it from a Spindash. It has just a ridiculous range, and it does so much damage. It does so much damage. It is ridiculous how good this move is. I can't stress that enough. It is so good, it nullifies every other combat ability Shadow has. That's how ridiculous it is. Like, when you look at the back half of Shadow's speedrun, like, I wouldn't even say Flame Core. When you look at Aquatic Base onward, even Radical Train, you just Tornado Kick. That's how you win every combat room, is with the Tornado Kick. There's only one other thing that can rival the Tornado Kick, and that is Uninhibited Mode, which I'm going to put underneath Goated because Uninhibited Mode doesn't do a whole lot in terms of, like, movement, but it's super good. Obviously, makes Shadow invincible. You can extend the time in it with the action gauge. He can defeat any enemy in one hit. His chaos abilities get supercharged, which finally makes the Chaos Lance super useful because you can fire charged lances instantly and hit up to 5 targets with them, which makes it really nice for instantly defeating long-range foes. It is not as good as the Tornado Kick because you do have to get to Uninhibited Mode when you have the capability to, which when we do it in the speedrun, we do it in Flame Core and at that very end of Aquatic Base. It just absolutely wrecks house. It takes a almost literal super form to be better than breakdancing. Oh my god, this move is so ridiculous. Though there will be some changes, I do know, that's going to make the Tornado Kick a little bit less absurd and also buff up Shadow's other combat abilities to kind of even things out because this move is just so busted. But yeah, Uninhibited Mode, really cool, awesome concept, taking a cutscene only ability, kind of like Omega's Gatling Guns, and transforming it into a gameplay feature. Really cool thing there. Made even cooler by the fact that this was actually a last-minute addition in the Shadow release. When Chaos released it, he had no plans on giving Shadow an S-rank reward, and coming up with that idea I think was super awesome. And well, because that exists, we probably wouldn't have ESP mode if that didn't happen. So we have Uninhibited Mode to thank for that as well. Uplift Object, it's pretty cool. I would say it's at the bottom of good, because thinking about it casually too, it's very useful for getting to higher routes. But when you get the Lotus of Resilience and that Badnik Bounce, the Badnik Bounce kind of covers everything Uplift Object can do. And the Uplift Smash is definitely at the bottom of meh, but cool. I mean, like, it could be considered bad, but like, it's not really bad. It's more harmless than anything. It doesn't really detract from the gameplay or anything like that. So I'll put it at the bottom there, because you can just pick up the item and throw it. You don't need to use this move, but it's got a cool animation. Meh, but cool. Okay, the white gem. The white gem is pretty A-okay. It's A-okay. It can ricochet those enemies. It makes the homing attack do more damage, even though the homing attack doesn't really... What is this? What is this? Tell me right. No, get out of here. It helps the homing attack do more damage. The homing attack doesn't really need to do more damage, though, in Sonic's case, because you can just spam it. So it's like, do you want to hit the A button 3 times, or do you want to hit the custom action button once? But you're also locked out of using other gems and stuff. There actually used to be a really cool thing with the white gem, is the white gem would allow you to do as many jump dashes as you wanted to, as long as you did a bounce attack between them. And that ability was cut because it was a bug. I would love to maybe see the white gem give you 1 extra jump dash, so you could use 3 of them, because it was the only gem back in the Shadow release that had platforming and combat utility rather than just one or the other. I thought it was really neat, and it made it a lot more interesting of an item. However, I also can't understand, because being able to do as many jump dashes as the action gauge allows kind of broke some things. So I still would love to see it back to its former glory, but that is up to Mr. Developer Man to do so, and what he thinks is his game after all. And our last ability, coming in at the hour and 9-minute mark. Hopefully it's been less time for you, unless you've enjoyed me rambling about this for the last hour, is the yellow gem. I think the yellow gem is a pretty gosh darn great ability. Probably better than the sky gem. Honestly, probably better than the rainbow gem. It's just that really solid shield that can take damage for you, help you get the S ranks really easily to eventually get to supersonic there. And its ring attraction is also pretty incredible. Yeah, it doesn't give you double jumps like the thunder shield usually does, but it also doesn't need to. Like, Sonic's got the purple gem, which you can easily switch out of. It does have the disadvantage. Maybe it would be cool if you could do it like the original Sonic 06 and not have the yellow gem active, like on Sonic's person when the shield was equipped, and you could just have the shield normally. But I think that would maybe conflict too much with using the other gem abilities, and I think it's kind of a cool drawback, because you would then just pretty much be invincible, as you could just keep the thunder shield on while using the other gem abilities too. It'd be kind of ridiculous. And it's kind of amazing that with all of these abilities, these characters are, I would say, probably moderately overpowered for the stages they traverse through, which I think is the best place for Sonic characters to be when it comes to stages, because it allows you to kind of make your own routes and take the level design and, you know, skip it, take advantage of it, move through automation quicker, all that kind of stuff. And wow, what a set we have here. I'm going to take a screenshot of this thing, probably to post on Twitter the same day this video comes out. But I really hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope this was worth it. And I'll be really interested to see everybody's thoughts on this and how well I did at making a tier list video. I hope it was interesting. At the very minimum, I hope that it was interesting for you to watch and maybe learn more about Project 06. You can also do that with the character bio videos as well. That being said, thank you all so much for watching. Have yourselves a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.